Hello everybody, and I hope you're having a fantastic day, and in this video I'm coming back at you with another Let's Talk About 6 Rings. So before I actually get into this, I want to cover something real quick. Okay, so before I actually get into the full video, I will be doing this for each and every video, especially for those of you that can only watch one video in the first place. But I'm going to be talking about some stuff before I actually get completely into the 6 rings, so that way I can clear your mind and help you understand where I'm actually going with this video, or when I'm talking about abilities and what's not, so that way you understand more what I'm talking about. It makes more sense to you, to be fairly honest. And I'm giving you a second head, so when I actually get into it, it already gave you the info and what you need to know, so that way it's pretty much common sense for you at that point. You pretty much already know beforehand I even talk about the abilities. Okay, so the first thing I want to go over is the damage chart. Cut in action. Okay, so here is the damage chart. I'm not going to be talking about defenses, because defenses are not going to be the things that improve your DPS. They're going to be decreasing your DPS, and defense varies between each and every enemy, so I'm not even going to be talking about that, to be fairly honest. I'm not even worried about the whole defense part. I'm actually going to be worried about the attack part of this element chart. So as you can see right here, we have stats, whether it's attack, magic attack, or both. We have ability power, total ability power, by the way. So it's all of the ability power combined in each and every move and what's not. And I'll talk about that in a second if you're confused about total ability power, because pretty much it's like, let's say you have a multi-hitting move, it's ability power 40, but it hits 3 times. You gotta pretty much do 40 times 3. That's 120 ability power. That's the total ability power right there. And then we got the elements. So those are the 3, at least pretty much main factors. There are some small factors involved and some side factors occasionally, like procs, or uses the attack or magic attack stat, stuff like that, that affects the damage output as well. But these are pretty much the main factors, like the main factors of what your damage is going to be looking like and what's so not. Of course, defense is going to reduce it, and damage reflection, damage reduction, all that stuff, but we're not going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about how you can increase your damage, not decrease your damage. Okay, so as you can see right there, that's pretty much what I want to show you, so you're not in confusion when I'm actually talking about the ability power of the moves and what's so not. Okay, the second thing I want to talk about, since you understand the damage chart, or let me actually clear your mind actually right before I actually get into this about the ability chart. Okay, so let me actually try to get a really strong move on board. Mage. Okay, let's look at the mage's moves. Okay, so right here we have Emperor's Bind, and then we got Starburst. Okay, so some of you might be confused. For some of you this is pure common sense already, but for some of you might be confused. It may look a bit confusing, but Starburst by far is the stronger predecessor compared to Emperor's Bind, all hands down. The reason for this being is Emperor's Bind has an ability power of 190, right? But this is only one hit. It deals magic damage to one enemy. It does not hit more than once, so that's only 190 ability power. But if you look at Starburst has an ability power of 70, and it hits 5 times. So if you actually multiply 70 times 5, that's 350 ability power. It's actually 350 ability power, because each one of those hits is 70 AP, and since it's hitting 5 times in one move, that's 350 total ability power, and that right there is extremely stronger than Emperor's Bind. So that's what I mean by total ability power. So if you're confused why people are using Dragon's Claw or Starburst or any of that funky jazz, that is because it has a total ability power and it's higher. It may not look like it by first looks, to be fairly honest. When I first started this, I was really confused why people were using moves like these, because I always thought these had low ability power, but that's not the case, because they're looking at the total ability power. They're not looking at just the ability power alone. I was confused when I first started, so if you were confused, if you're first starting or anything like that, I want to clear that out of your head, so that way you completely understand where I'm going with this. Of course, there's a success value. If it's not 100, or if it does just to say damaging like this, it's going to miss sometimes. At least it's not going to miss a lot, considering that has a success value of 80, but it's going to miss some. But anyways, moving on from there. Okay, so I understand what you mean, AzureWrath, and what's not, but which one would be better? A multi-hitting move that has the same ability power, or a single hitting move? As a Lancer, let's say Double Sting. Double Sting attacks twice, and it's obviously in its move, and it shows it right here. And Dragon Crush had the same ability power. Which one would you recommend? if they just had like ability power hits, like there wasn't no added effect, they have added effects right here, but if they had no added effects or anything like that, right, I would tell you double sting would be the better choice. The reason that double sting would be the better choice is because if you get an ability power buff or you decrease their ability power, like let's say you're using like a Dragon's Cry, for example, increases the ability power of damage taken by all enemies by 20 for like 40 seconds. If you do like a ability power debuff for the enemy team, or you do an ability power buff, right, double sting is going to get the better of it. See, by default, they do the same damage, so it really doesn't matter for that. But like if you get ability power buffs, right, double sting's going to get more. Because like, let's say they're both 200. I'm not sure if I said they're both 300, but let's say they're both 200. Double sting, since it attacks twice, since it says, it would just say like an ability power of 200 and it would attack twice per se, for example, both of those hits would be having an ability power increase of 20. So both of those hits, not just the whole attack, but both of those hits would have that 20 ability power increase, while Dragon Crush only hits one time, so only one of the hits will get a 20 ability power increase. Now you can see the difference. Since this one hits twice, both of those hits are going to be getting both of those, not one, but both. So there's a 20 ability power difference now in Dragon Crush and Double Sting. If they were both 200 ability power and you got an ability power buff of 20, there would be a 20 difference now, since this one hits twice and both of those hits get the ability power increase. So that's what I wanted to really share with you first. Okay, so the next thing is the before meta. I actually want to talk about the strongest moves beforehand so you understand how much of a buff we got. Okay, so the first thing, the first strongest #1 move that we had before 6 ring is, I don't know if I said before meta, but let me rephrase that. Before 6 ring, the strongest move we had before 6 ring is all hands down Kill Dance was the nastiest move. Kill Dance right here has an ability power of 130 and attacks. It's going to be a random target, so it's semi-crowd control, but if you're attacking one enemy, it really hurts them. It attacks a random target 5 times with magic damage. That is a lot of ability power. That is a lot of ability power. That is the hardest hitting move before the 6 rings come out, and it's actually still the second hardest hitting move, tied with the soldiers moves that I'll talk about in a second, or probably third place, but anyways, I'll talk about that in a second. So before 6 rings came out, Kill Dance was the strongest move by far. The next strongest move, I don't have it, so I sadly can't really like explain it like per like in your like visual, like in your face, but I can show you in here. I don't have it yet. It would be, where is it? I know it's somewhere here. Linkage Arrow. Linkage Arrow has an ability power a total of 400. Its ability power 100 and it damages 4 times. So that right there is a total of 400 ability power, and that right there was pretty dang strong before 6 rings. Now it's still strong after 6 rings, but it's not like the beta, like it's not game breaking ability power anymore, sadly. So yeah, that was the strongest move before 6 rings. The second strongest one is Linkage Arrow. The third one was actually, believe it or not, it was actually Starburst. Starburst was actually, well, if it all of them hit, Starburst was the third strongest move, because Starburst also, on top of it, you ignore damage reflection and damage reduction, so that's very, very nasty. And then from there, it's pretty much like the Archer's moves, like Deadly Arab, Arrow of Strength, and then Diminishing Shot, because they're multi-hitting ability power. From there, it just like starts to decline. So yeah, from there, that's pretty much before the 6 rings came out. So yeah, I hope this helped, and let me actually get into the actual class of the 6 ring that I actually am planning to talk about for this video. Now that we covered that, let's actually get into the 6 ring we will be talking about for this video. The Lancer. That's right, we are finally on the Lancer. We are more than halfway there now. Okay, so with the Lancer, if I haven't mentioned this before, if you're only watching one of my videos because you don't have enough time or anything, like said, they have percentages. The skill tree has percentages, so that means for each and every individual cost of gear pieces, there's going to be a bigger gap with stats between them each, because percentages multiply, they don't add. So considering that the number is going to be higher, the flat stat's going to be higher, if you multiply a higher number, you're going to get a higher result. What I'm trying to get at here is you're going to be seeing a bigger gap between each and every cost now, between gear pieces now, thanks to more percentages even added more with the skill tree. So anyways, moving on from there, let's actually get to the moves, what everybody wants to hear me talk about. Okay, so right here we got the new move, Right Break. Right Break is a ability power of 150. It hits 3 times with a success value of 80. It reduces use of gouge gains by 1 for 20 seconds. It's also a piercer move. It penetrates through damage reduction and damage reflection. Right here is, if it hit, all 3 of them hit, it does the most move out of all piercing damage moves in the game. So that is very, very nice. And on top of it, this one has an added effect that reduces use of gouge gains of the target by 1 for 20 seconds. That right there is a personally, I think that would be a better debuff than the attack and magic attack being reduced by 20. But yeah, right here we have the best piercer move on the Lancers. So the Lancers get, every class in this game is going to get a buff from this, a huge, well, not a huge buff, but they're going to be stronger than they previously were before the 6 rings. Besides, maybe the Cleric. I need to go over the Cleric again. I'm not 100% sure. The ones that are getting the biggest buffs, all hands down, are the Archers and the Soldiers. But every class in this game is going to get a buff from the 6 rings. And this is no exception. This is an example. Right Break right here definitely is a better piercer move than the previous Lancer's piercer move. I'm not even sure what it's called, and the Soldier's piercer move. So Right Break definitely does a significantly more amount than those 2 moves, and even possibly double or nearly triple the amount that it can do previously with its previous piercer move. Okay, so yeah, definitely recommended for dual rooms, coliseums. Might be useful depending on what type of set you will be running for your Lancer in guild battles, and I personally don't most of the time don't recommend this in player versus enemy. Usually when it comes to player versus enemy, you don't really have to worry about too much of piercer moves. You might want to throw maybe some on during, like, very occasionally will you be using piercer moves, like extremely occasionally, for player versus enemy. If it's really annoying, perhaps, say, and you're dealing with the monster, that usually this will never happen again. Constant, like, damage reduction, damage reflection, and it's like the first wave or what's not. You may want to use this, but for the most part, it's not going to be used a player versus enemy, all hands down, to cut to the chase. So yeah, moving on from there, definitely a nice ability, definitely good for player versus player. Maybe used in guild battles depending on your set. Occasionally used, very occasionally used in player versus enemy, but that's just pretty much as far as it goes with that move. Okay, so over here we got Quick Raid. Quick Raid is a new severe sting. If you don't have Quick Raid equipped, I would highly recommend equipping Quick Raid. Quick Raid is a nasty ability for the Lancer. Not because of its damage, because it only does an ability power of 160 and it only hits once, but because of its added effects. So it does damage, but on top of it, its added effects are going to make it great. Increases the target's break value by 40. It reduces your character's ability cooldown times for certain abilities by 25% for 10 seconds. That right there is very nasty. By the time you're using Quick Raid again, you could pretty much make it 50 for at least 2 seconds. So before it even gets to run out, right? The cooldown time for Quick Raid has already ended and you could use it again. So you could constantly just have 25% cooldown times for your abilities over and over and over and over. And that right there, I wouldn't say it's like meta. It's not going to be like super duper OP, but that's definitely pretty dang nasty. That's pretty dang powerful technique you got right there. So it's also not just increasing the target's break, so that way they have, like, after they break, right? Not after they break, but like during the time you're using this move, it's getting closer to the enemy breaking, which goes through like a certain amount of defense and magic defense. It's also reducing the ability cooldown times for the other moves you're going to be using, so that's right there is a pretty nice comboing effect right there, and let me be honest, that's pretty dang helpful. So that's why I would recommend Quick Raid for almost nearly anything you're doing. Maybe for some player versus player sets, Quick Raid might not be used, and that's okay, because with player versus player, it truly varies. But if you, like, sometimes, like, Quick Raid can be used in really any scenario. It just really depends on the strategy for player versus player, including guild battles. So yeah, that is Quick Raid right there. Very nasty ability. Then we got Lion Formation right here. Applies a jealousy state to all enemies that nullifies useless gouge fill 1 time. So pretty much what I'm trying to get at here is, if you use something like Cheer, or if you use a Unison monster right before this happens, it nullifies that. Other than that, this right here probably isn't the best choice legitimately in the game. Personally, if you really want something that's really going to hurt their cheer, I personally would just use Dissonance and cast a Spare on them, and that right there will do the trick. Instead of just doing it for like, it does this for all enemies, but it's only going to nullify one of them. The Dissonance lasts for full 40 seconds, so it doesn't matter how many times you cheer. Within that 40 seconds, if you dare cheer, it's not going to work. It's legitimately not going to work. So I personally don't recommend this line formation. I think it has no purpose, nearly if any, to be fairly honest. I would just cast a Spare, and legitimately, it's for the archer's move, so keep that in mind. It's an archer move, not for the archer's move. It's right here, if I can find it, right here. It inflicts the Spare on all enemies for 40 seconds with a success of 80. You can increase that success value by throwing on, where is it? Diminish right here, so that way it's 100. But regardless of so, it's going to be targeting all enemies, and that's not a bad success value as well. That could legitimately hit everybody on the enemy team. It may miss, but it could hit everybody on the enemy team. So I personally would do that instead, because that's going to be a lot more better, a lot more useful, resourceful, and efficient towards your set. So I don't recommend line formation. It literally has no purpose, and that's all you could really use it for, is legitimately guild battles. It can be used in Coliseum and duel rooms, but it's going to be such a waste to use it there because it's not as heavily Unison orientated as guild battles. So personally, guild battles would be the only reason I would use it, and even then it's not an efficient move. Okay, so moving on from there, we got Volcanic Nova. Volcanic Nova is, as you can nearly say, it is the next Severe Sting. Right here, it's only usable when Lance is equipped as your main weapon. Ability power of 80, hits 4 times, and then ability power boosted by 50 after each hit when target is broken. So right there, if you manage to break your target, that is a lot of ability power. That is 130 for each and every hit 4 times. That legitimately does more than the archer's best move besides Linkage Arrow. Like the next move after Linkage Arrow, before the 6 ring came out. Before the 6 ring, not including Linkage Arrow, that was literally better than any archer's move if you managed to get that broken going for the ability power boost. Seriously, that is a pretty good amount of ability power. That is pretty heavy hitting, to be fairly honest. Not the best, but that is pretty heavy hitting. And on top of it, if you use it after Quick Raid, it gets increased to 100. So that's actually going to be 150 ability power 4 times maximum. That right there is really beautiful. So if your target's broken and you use it after Quick Raid, that's 150 ability power, and that right there, it's I'm not gonna lie, it does do damage. It's pretty dang powerful, to be fairly honest with you. So yeah, Volcanic Nova is definitely a nice heavy hard hitting move if you manage to combo it with the right system. If you don't, it pretty much does legitimately around as much as you would see Arrow of Strength doing. Arrow of Strength being the archer's Tower of Judgment move. If I could show you right here, legitimately right here, Arrow of Strength. So they literally do ability power of 180, literally ability power of 80 and hits 4 times. So yeah, that's Volcanic Nova for you. Very nice move. The next Severe Sting, probably, like, if you combo it right off, it's the heaviest hitting move the Lancer can have through their whole ability. Next we have Dragon Ripper. Dragon Ripper has ability power of 100, hits 3 times. Ability power boosted by 50 for each critical hits. So if you manage to do critical hits, it's going to be boosted by 50 extra, and then paralyzes the target for 10 seconds with a success value of 70. This right here is not a bad ability. It's not the heaviest hitting ability, but it's not like the best ability either. Personally, if you threw a Severe Sting on, I think Severe Sting would legitimately do more than this move, to be fairly honest. If you actually manage to combo it off and actually get the break going for Severe Sting, it's going to be doing more. So yeah, Dragon Ripper, I would really only completely recommend if you are interested in paralyzing, and even then for paralyzing, I wouldn't really recommend Dragon Ripper, to be fairly honest. I wouldn't even recommend really worrying about paralyzing the target. If you really want to do status elements, you could either switch to the Mage, because the Mage has multiple moves that do confusion, or you could switch to the Archer. Archer has something that reduces their status alignment resistance, and then it has moves that do, like, it has one move that does like confusion, paralyzation, and blind all in one. So I personally don't recommend Dragon Ripper. You can equip it. It does do damage, at least I could say, but yeah, that's pretty much Dragon Ripper right there. Next up, we have Stake All right here. Stake All increases character's critical hit chance by 30 and critical hit damage ability power by 30 for 40 seconds. So this right here is going to be needed with preparation. Personally, if you're just using Fatal Testaments, this could help. but personally I wouldn't recommend this if you're just using Fatal Suspect. Like if you have Noah, right, and if you have like the attack constant effect skills, the critical chance up ones from the Noah gear, like I have the helmet right here I could show you if you're confused about the set I'm talking about. If you have these right here, if you have this set right here for the critical chance up, if you have 2 of them, if you attach them, if you have Noah, right there would be a very nasty combo. Because if you manage to use Noah and you have 2 of those, right there, you're going to be doing massive amounts of legitimately ability power. You're going to be doing massive amounts of damage. Your critical hits legitimately give you a 130 ability power boost if you manage to use Stake All and Noah's character buff. So that right there can be a lot of ability power, but you need preparation for it. You need to make sure you have what you need to actually make this blossom. If you don't, there's literally no purpose in it whatsoever at all, and I really don't recommend it under any circumstance. So pretty much definitely you want to have that buff, that Fujin buff or whatever it's called, the one that increases ability power by 50, and you definitely want to have critical chance ups on. If you don't, I really don't recommend using it at all for like really any reason, because it's really going to hurt your DPS instead of actually help it blossom. Okay, next one we have is Shield Break. Shield Break is not a bad support move whatsoever. Removes damage reduction and damage reflection effects from a single enemy. This is way more of a player versus enemy technique, and definitely good for like stuff like guild raids, Super United offenses, and sometimes it can be useful within missions, like player versus enemy missions, or like events and stuff like that. So this right here can be used. It depends if you're dealing with a monster that constantly is annoying and it has like the damage reflection or damage reduction on. You can definitely throw on a Shield Break and just get rid of it using Shield Break and really help out your team, really progress to the next level and what's not. So yeah, really only player versus enemy move used in certain circumstances. It's a nice plan B. It's definitely a nice plan B technique, but you don't need it 24/7. I don't recommend it being put on 24/7. Okay, so moving on from there, the last move we have here is Dragon Tail. Dragon Tail is actually kind of like, to be fairly honest, a little bit nearly, if not on par with Volcanic Nova. The only issue with Dragon Tail is it's an unstable move. It's legitimately the weaker version of Kill Dance. Usable when Scythe is equipped as your main weapon. Ability power 110, deals physical damage to a random target 5 times. So it's semi-crowd control. It's not going to hit everybody, to be fairly honest. So it's not going to hit everybody 5 times, but it's going to hit across the field 5 times. It's going to be hitting random people 5 times. And if you manage to use Dragon Tail again after it, the ability power gets increased by 130, and then increases your critical hit damage ability power by 20 for 10 seconds. So right there, Dragon Tail works well with actually Stake All. So if you manage to do what I said with Stake All and then add Dragon Tail to it, you're actually going to be doing more than, I'm not even actually 100% sure, but that's a lot of damage right there. That's a lot of damage if you manage to get that rolling. So Lancer has a really high potential critical hit or critical damage ability power limit. Seriously, it is ridiculous. It is beyond ridiculous what the Lancer can do ability power wise with the critical hit limit, obviously, but that takes a lot of preparation and a lot of resources. Apparently, like personally, if you already have the stuff, it's not really all too worrisome, but if you don't have the stuff, I can't really vouch for Lancer. It looks like Lancer's going to be more on that critical hit and break. So it's definitely a nice support character for damaging enemies. Because not damaging enemies, but helping with damage because of the break system. Obviously, Lancer is the heaviest breaking character or class in the game. But personally, if you have more than one Lancer, I don't really recommend having more than one Lancer on your team. Because Lancers do more damage now and they are more stronger. But again, where it's really meta is going to be, personally, for player versus players, soldiers are going to be meta all hands down. Player versus enemy, soldiers will be doing more damage, and same for archers. It looks like if you manage to get the right stuff though, Lancers can be doing even more damage than possibly even soldiers. I'm not 100% sure about archers. I don't think that's going to go well for archers, but it looks like they're going to be doing even more damage than soldiers if you manage to get the right stuff proccing and the right gear and stuff on for the Lancer. So yeah, that pretty much covers this video. Oh yeah, let me show you actually, before I actually end this video, Kill Dance, so that way you actually get like a good reading of Kill Dance. And this move right here if I can, there we go. Okay, so Kill Dance right here, ability power of 130, attacks a random target 5 times with magic damage, target changes after each attack. It can attack the same target twice, but it's going to be attacking random targets. So you can see right here, literally does the same thing, random target 5 times, ability power of 110. So by default, it's literally a little bit weaker than Kill Dance. It's a weaker version of Kill Dance, a younger brother or younger sister of Kill Dance, but if you can manage to get the ability power through critical hits, like capped out, because you have a lot of potential with critical hits with this class, you're going to be doing a lot more ability power, So yeah, that pretty much covers it for this video. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for watching, and I hope this helped out. This is the AzureWrath, and I'll catch you in the next video. I'm out. Peace.